Alright, here we go. Welcome. This is me running outside corner bead. This is the first coat, tape coat. Using all-purpose mud for the tape coat. Does a good job. It's the stuff you want. But you can use whatever, I guess. Switching over views here. So this top part, I'm just sitting it flat on my blade and pushing it across. As I build my corner here, I'll smooth that out a little bit. I don't want it to be too thick up there. And then I'm cornering my mud at the bottom here, kind of just putting it on one side of the blade. A little booger there. So I'm getting both sides of the drywall coated in that all-purpose mud here. Oh, can't catch them both. And yeah, and I'm gonna start building. I'm gonna start filling that crease. Yep, there I go. Filling the crease here. You want to fill that crease in because you don't want any pockets, you don't want any air, you want it all mud back behind that tape, just to make sure that it does a good job of adhering. The corner bead adheres to the drywall. You don't want any air because air tends to come out in one way or another, whether it's going to crack, a year from now or whatever. You don't want that to happen. So yeah, I'm filling that up. You don't want any pockets of air in there. You want to make sure it's all mud. I'm about to start building a false angle on this thing, and that false angle is in an attempt for that corner bead to settle in to the mud. So it actually is, when I put it on, the mud actually fills the pocket around the corner bead, around that inside piece. It's just a false corner. It's kind of an artificial corner. It's not. It's important, but it's not that important to be perfect. So here I'm sticking on my bead, and you can see the mud has dripped down a little bit, but I'm going to put it on and push it up, and that usually fixes that because I'm going to push all that mud out of there. So I'm going to put some pressure on here. I don't put a ton of pressure, but I usually run my thumb and my index finger across this just to really make sure I work all the mud out. But I'm going to do it a second time after I wipe down the bead one time. Yep, camera's on, friend. So I'm going to start wiping it down for the first time. And this is just a flattening. I'm just trying to get it wiped all the way down. I've got a little bit of air pocket back there. Smooth that out. Put some mud back there. Putting some pressure on that knife. Not a ton, but, definitely enough to force some mud out of there. You want to keep that blade perpendicular with the bead. You don't want it to be flexed outwards. You don't want to take too much mud from the outside of that corner bead. So here I go. I'm putting some pressure on that corner bead now to really make sure there's no air pockets, there's no bubbles, there's no heavy mud pockets either. You want it smooth, you want it slick. That's important. Doing that twice is important. I do it once when I first put it on. I do it again after I do my first wipe down. This is my second wipe down on it. I'm going to wipe it down real good this time. Put a lot of pressure on the blade. Again, though, I'm more aiming that knife in. I'm doing a check here just for regularity on the bead. I want to make sure there's a little bit of a cup. Not a big one, just a little one. And usually if it's cupped on both sides, it's usually pretty straight. So I'm moving over here to the second coat. This is a 10-inch knife. I used +3, USG +3 mud on this. It does a good job for skimming, for bedding. You can tape with it. You can do pretty much anything with it. But I really like it for skimming out. It's one of my favorite muds, actually. Sometimes it's just the cheapest box in the bunch, though. And sometimes your boss just gives you what he gives you. You just take it. So yeah, it's just a 10-inch blade. I'm really just trying to make sure that everything, that's a little, I was checking to see if that was an air pocket. It's not. It's just a high point on the bead, but the mud will cover that up. It's going to get a third coat. I'm going to show you that video here in a second. If you stick to the end, I'm going to show you some vertical beads too that I'm going to do. A vertical bead that I'm going to do. I'm going to show you all 3 coats on that one. It should be pretty quick. So this second coat, you're really trying to fill that cup. You really want to get that cup all the way filled up, and you don't want to take too much mud off that outside. You can see there's probably about 6 inches there where it's really full of mud, and the other 4 on that 10 is just the feathering of the edge. Everybody talks a lot about feathering, but sometimes it's more about, it's not how much mud you put on, it's how much you take off. Sometimes you need to leave it on for a bed coat like this. You need to leave a lot of mud on there to make sure you get a lot of coverage. Am I going to finish this? Yep, I guess I'm going to finish this coat out. And I mean, use the visual to see, you know, what I'm doing to get this out, to get this covered. I should really be wiping the outside of my knife down before I put it up there so too many buggers don't fall off. Yep, there's a booger right there. Speak of the devil. It's a different kind of booger. That top angle is actually wet, so I'm not going super high into it, and it's under 10 inches there. So, as it were, if I didn't already run the angle, I would have just ran it all at once. You can definitely do. At the time, I was just busy running angles, and it just didn't work out that way. But you can run the angle, the taping angle, and the taped angle and the bead at the same time. Just use a light touch when you're running your knife down through there to get that real smooth look. But either way, I'm gonna feather this bottom edge. Again, it's about 4 inches feathered and 6 inches into the cup. And like I said, I'm gonna leave it pretty heavy. You don't want to wipe it down too much. You want to make sure there's mud in there, but you want it slick. You want it smooth. It's getting a third coat. So I don't know what's going on with this light bulb. Okay, I'm going around this beam here. Apparently this was important to me to get around this bead and to show you guys, I guess. I don't know. I don't even remember what they ended up doing with this beam here. It didn't get finished with drywall, so it doesn't matter to me, right? So yeah, it's good sometimes just to keep this stuff small, just to work in a small area. And once you get done with it, you kind of don't have to mess with it again. So yeah, and make sure you're pulling through. You see how I bring that knife pretty flat to the wall, or to the ceiling rather. I'm trying to bring it, I mean, it's like 30 degrees maybe. Looking for a good way to get this flat here. I'm like, you know what, this is probably the best way right here. Whoosh. And it was. Done a pretty good job. Remember, you're going to put a third coat on it. You know, there's always tomorrow. You're not going to finish anything in one coat. So this is the final coat. This is that same stick of bead that I was working on the second coat with. So I'm not going to drive it all the way into that angle. I'm going to get it really close, but I don't want to push too hard or put too much mud into that corner. And especially this corner up here is wet, so definitely not. Just keep it close. I've already ran the angle, so the angle is technically skimmed out, so it's good. I just get that knife right there, and I'm just going to run it right beside it. I'm not, like I said, I don't want to dig my knife blade into that. One thing is it might not be dry underneath there, and you might pull some nasty buggers out of there. Also, it could scar up the drywall, or it can scar up the mud. You don't want to do that because you're going to have to sand it anyways, so it's just extra work. I don't remember. I don't think we go all the way through this. I did the bottom. This is the bottom side. So this is a third coat on the bottom side here, and this had a flat in it. I went ahead and ran the flat with the bead here because, I mean, I was doing flats at the same time pretty much, so I was about to run my flats anyways. I said, you know, I'll just go ahead and do my flat right now, and I put them together. Put a light touch on this out. All right, light touch right there. Smooth that out. Left a line in there. Probably shouldn't. I could have put one more touch on the outside, but I chose not to. Oh my. So this is me running this vertical. I'm gonna tape in a vertical piece of bead here. I'm running through this pretty fast. I'm packing that corner. Run both sides. I pack the corner. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's hard. But just make sure it is. If it's too far off, you may need to pack it with Durabond or something. If it's back and you can actually see the wood or the metal studs, that's bad. Okay, here I'm definitely creating that corner. I want to make that false corner there for the bead to settle into. That looked pretty good. I'm going to stick it on here. And this is all done on my GoPro. It's hard to make money. You know, I can't sit here and stage this stuff. So I just did it on the GoPro, and it actually, I mean, it's not great, but the video quality is decent, but you're not getting the best possible view of everything. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth this all out. I'm taking the mud out right now. You know, this is actually, a lot of people ask, I see this a lot on Reddit and stuff, is what's going on, how do I match that up? And this is it right here. This is how you do it. Again, I'm doing a second pressing of this, trying to press in, see if there's any air back there, seeing if there's any mud back there. This is the most important part on putting this bead on right here, is making sure that there's no mud, there's no air back there, and there's not too much mud. It's nice and straight, and you got a nice little cup you can fill up with your mud. So yeah, there's a repair they left me. Okay, this is a different piece of bead, but this is the second coat, so it's the same premise. Got a little bit of a sniffly cold there. Got a little bit of sniffles. So, 10-inch knife. I'm putting that blade right next to the edge. I turn it a little bit. Oh, got a big old chunk here. Yeah, get that out of there. Don't want any chunks. No dirt, no in your mud. So I turn it a little bit. Sometimes I'm just trying to make the most of the mud that's on my blade right there. And pulling it up. You can always go all the way down and do this all in one fell stroke. I chose not to. Sometimes it's easier to do it like this. You get a better coat. Don't go into that outside edge next to that doorway. You're going to pull out dirt and drywall dust and stuff and get it in your mud. It creates a big problem. So you can see the second coat. I'm really trying to just fill that gap. Again, this is, like I said, it's really important, but not the most important. So looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. This is the final coat on this. And this is a skimming coat. The pocket isn't going to be nearly as big. So a lot of it is covered. You're covering up that 10-inch knife blade that ran down through there. That was my baby screaming, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. Somebody screaming upstairs. So running that 10-inch, you're covering up your 10-inch blade here with this 12-inch knife. You're filling up any pocket that's left. A little dry spot right there. Tugging my mud. Still a dry spot. See a dry spot up there? I'll just run it through. Yep. A lot of times you can just run it through a couple times and it'll actually take that off. Most of the time you have enough mud up there to fix whatever is up there. Putting more mud on it isn't always the best solution. So I'm going to feather this out. And it feathers pretty good. Still about 4 inches. And that thing should run pretty dang on slick right there. And it does. It looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with this. And this is a good view too. So that turned out pretty nice. Thanks guys for watching. See you on the next one.